All right, we are recording. Now, I knew that once I had attacks and projectile attacks in the game, the next thing that people are going to want is melee attacks. So that is what I have been working on, and I have created an enemy called Spear Sapphire. As you can see, it uses most of the same items in it as Spark Sapphire does. Spark Sapphire being the blue gemstone enemy. So let me show you how melee attacks work and how you can create them. Now, as with most attacks, you have to actually be inside a behavior in order to see it. I've got two behaviors here. There's Stabs a Lot and Die, which is essentially the death animation. So open up the behavior wizard here, which takes a while. There's a lot of stuff to go through. So after running out of 50 hit points, it switches to the die behavior, I should say. The graphics are eightfold here, and normally it's just the 3 gems in a row here, but I have a sort of a stab animation. And if I preview it, you'll see that it is the back gemstone stretching out, smacking the center one, and launching this one outwards. And ideally, we would have the animation, there'd be hitboxes as it's stretching out like this that would harm the player on contact, or I should say the player character. And I've got some defenses set up here. Takes extra damage from fire, electric, and nature damage, less damage from water and ice damage. And so you might notice that there are absolutely no sub-attacks in the stab attack here. But there's a new control here, melee frame-by-frame details. This one brings up a brand new wizard that I have created. Unfortunately, I can't quite get this thing to go away, but you'll be able to see the animation right there in the center. And this allows you to select individual frames and add melee hitboxes to those frames. And stretching out like this doesn't actually have any hitboxes attached to it. But as soon as that thing contacts the center, then you start to see this hitbox. And you can add multiple hitboxes per attack. Let me just show you how that works. When you add hitboxes, you click the Add Hitbox button. It will add them to this list. And each one of these hitboxes, you can change what element it is. Let me just show you what it would look like. I'll make it minimum X 40, maximum X negative 10. Minimum Y, let's just go negative 55. Oops, negative 55, max X negative 50. And as you can see, there's this tiny little blue hitbox above here. You can tell it how much damage it's going to be. You can define what element it's going to be. And then you can switch these controls around by clicking another hitbox here. Like now we're in the blue one. I'll make this one that's sort of way over to the right. So let's go with 70 to 90. And as you can see, the red flashing hitbox is way over here. And don't know if you've noticed, but I've actually used pool ball colors for these. Number 1 is yellow, number 2 is blue, number 3 is red, 4 is purple, 5 is orange, 6 is green, 7 is brown, and 8 is black. And it doesn't actually allow you to add more than 8 hitboxes per frame. And mostly that's because I ran out of colors. But, you know, theoretically I could add a pink one, a light gray one, etc. But personally I think 8 should be enough for anybody. And you can remove these hitboxes at will. And just so that it's out there, the color of the hitbox here is entirely dependent on where it is in this list. Like this blue hitbox here. If I got rid of it, then the hitbox that is red now would become blue. Let me just demonstrate that. I will make this hitbox something that is way down beneath here. If I remove the blue hitbox, as you can see, the red hitbox suddenly became blue. And we go frame by frame here, so different frames can have different hitboxes. And I added a little extra feature. As you can see, some of these other frames do not have any hitboxes in them. But let me just add a couple of dummy hitboxes here. One that is just way to the left. Let's see, -80. No, even more than that. 120. Maximum -100. Oops. Let me just add a couple more here. And these are entirely meant to be dummy hitboxes. They aren't. I'm not going to click OK and add them to the game. But so there's a blue hitbox way over here. There's a red hitbox way down here. If I highlight one of these frames over here, click Control-C, then scroll up to some frame that doesn't have any hitboxes, and then hit Control-V, then as you can see, the hitboxes that I had selected when I hit Control-C, they appear right here. And from there, you can modify them. Like, let me just move this one way up. -100, well, that's off the screen. Let's try -70, -44. Yeah, so you can copy these hitboxes and move them, or move them after they've been copied. Anyhow, that's how these frames work. That's how melee attacks work in this game. Let's see. There is another feature which I knew I wanted to add long-term, but I didn't have time to implement it before Winnie City PonyCon happens. I'd been hoping to go there in person. I even had like 800 physical buttons commissioned for it, but now, even though I paid through the nose for those buttons, I can't use them, at least not at this one. Oh well, hopefully I'll be able to get some attention for my game at the Winnie City PonyCon. In any case, this is having sub-attacks that launch not at the beginning of the attack necessarily, but at whichever frame you decide they're going to be. That's probably going to be a whole different video. I figured that if we're going to have attacks that have their own animations, then what would be nice is, for example, if you wanted to do something sort of like Cloud Strife has with his sword beam attack, you wouldn't want the sword beam to launch out immediately at the start of the animation. You would want the beam to launch out when he slashes his sword forwards and the sword connects with the ground or something like that. That's when you'd want the actual projectile to launch. Being able to define which frame a sub-attack launches at, that is what these controls here are meant to enable. Unfortunately, that's not really going to happen. Not yet, anyway. Not in this release. I intend to do other releases later on that will use these sub-attacks. That's going to be the next thing that I work on, and once that's implemented, then I plan to work on player characters and their and actual melee attacks for them. At the moment, I believe that custom attacks, oh boy, I'm going to have to rethink the layout here. Frame by frame attack customization, it's not yet implemented, so yeah, I'm definitely going to fix the labeling on that button before this goes forward. But yeah, this is not in place for players yet. So basically that's it for this tutorial.